Our call to worship words are from the You Way by Beth Monholland. In this new year, may we leave behind the weight of unfulfilled resolutions, of unrealized dreams, and of unrealistic expectations. May we embrace the stories that tell us we are worthy and lovable. May we remember that each carry inside of us a spark of the divine. In this new year, may we carry kindness, gentleness, and hope that hold us through even the hardest days and the most daunting risks. May we carry the weight of memory that reminds us of who we are and the weight of spirit that reminds us we are still becoming. May we carry the seed of knowledge that teaches us that improvement and growth aren't linear and individualistic, but are cyclic and communal. May we carry the wisdom to seek rest and connection, to lean into mutual care. May we carry purpose lightly, trusting that it changes and evolves and surprises us. May we carry curiosity, wonder, and the ability to be surprised. This year, may we carry space for all our flaws, all our longings, and all our love, remembering that the truly daring adventure of life is not to be better, better, best, but to show up wholly, authentically, lovingly, as ourselves. May we carry these prayers and carry each other into this new year of 2025. Now, please join me as we say the words of our chalice lighting. May this flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth. Here together, we scatter and nurture seeds of spirit, service, and community. I can't think of a much better way for our united congregation to bring in the new year than by welcoming a new member. Will Sue Christensen and Susan please come forward?
So that's where it is, okay. I'll hold on to the pen for you. It is a joy to welcome Susan into our community of memory and hope. Will you work with us sharing the joys and responsibilities of membership?
Yes.
Members of the United Unitarian and Universalist congregation, will you welcome Susan into our congregation? Will you reach out to her in community, open to her unique gifts and perspectives, remembering that we were once new here ourselves? Please say yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Susan, becoming a member of this congregation is an important step, but it is only a first step. As Unitarian Universalists, we ask you to grow in understanding and to find and share our special gifts with one another. Ours is a shared ministry, and each of us have a crucial role to play. We need you, and we are grateful that you have chosen to join your spiritual path to ours. Would you like to sign the book now?
Yes, please.
The book that Susan is signing is the book that has been with us since the founding of our congregation. So we have the names of all of our members in this book. And so Susan is adding her name to that list, which is pretty long. I'm not sure whether they got the book at the time they actually got the charter, but I think they probably got it when the church was built. So, yes. That would be 1878 I think they probably had it. The information is there of all of the members who joined at that time. So, okay. Susan, we offer you a flower as a symbol of the unique gifts you bring to our congregation and of the gifts we hope you receive from us in return.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please give her a round of applause.
Sue asks that we sing today, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." Please rise in body and spirit.
There be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Sue. Hello. This is a time in our service when we share with each other our joys, concerns, anything you want to share. And we do this by almost anything, by picking up a stone, stating your name, and placing the stone into the water and let the ripples flow out to our congregation. I'm Jennifer Byriger. I placed a stone, and that's in memory and thanks for the life of Jimmy Carter.
Hi, I'm Sally. Yesterday, my brother had a pretty bad accident. He fell off of a ladder and severely broke his wrist. He's in surgery, recovering in surgery right now, and he broke his toe. He lives on his own, so we all have to rally and help him out. So, for Peter, many of you have met him. My name is Iris, and I have a joy. Joe and I just had breakfast with my son Jason and his two teenagers. Harrison, who is almost 14, was diagnosed as having, in the spring, as having 20% loss of hearing. And of course, they went through all the research, and I don't want to, he's 13 years old. I don't want a hearing aid, I don't want a hearing aid. Okay. He spent a lot of his savings, Harrison, on high-level earbuds. And this morning, they shared with us that that company that makes earbuds has just upgraded their product to now have a phone, and it's got a feature where you can use them as a hearing aid. So our son, Jason, is just filling out the last of the paperwork so that he can wear his earbuds during class. Gratitude.
Heidi, and I just want to thank everybody here who got in touch with me and wished me well. I had pneumonia, and we caught it really early, so they got me right on antibiotics, and within 48 hours I was feeling better. And so I just want to reiterate that if you don't feel well and you know that something is wrong, believe yourself, because that's what made the difference. If we had waited longer and I'd gotten sicker, who knows, I could have ended up in the hospital. But I didn't, and all is well.
I'm John, and I have a really unusual joy, and it's like a stunner, you know? Sometimes the smallest things can give you the biggest boost. And I had a student who raised her hand, and she came to my class and doesn't speak English. She only speaks Korean, and nobody speaks Korean. And there's no translator for Korean. And she kind of walks around school and in fear and often sleeps. And I didn't let her sleep in my class. And I had somebody help her. And I helped her. And she's doing really good. And when she raised her hand, I just felt like, oh, it's all over now. So my joy is that I had a student raise her hand in my class.
I'm Paul, and this is Susan. And first, a joy, Susan and I are going to be going on our cruise on Thursday. So we'll miss you guys for a couple of weeks, but we'll also miss the polar vortex. The second thing is Susan and I were going to be going to England in May to celebrate Susan's father's 100th birthday. We're still going in May, but it's going to be for a memorial service because he died on December 30th.
Hi, I'm Donna, and yesterday there was a memorial service for a young man in his 30s who died way too young. Very unfortunate thing that he did, choosing a bad lifestyle. There were many, many people, I wasn't there, but there were many, many people there, and I do send thoughts in recovery or understanding, patience, whatever, to the family and the friends. His name was Isaac Unger.
Hi, I'm Adele. Can you give me some Kleenex over there? Preemptive Kleenex. I have a lot of joys, thank you. Yep. And I needed to write them down, so I didn't forget them. My seminary starts in 1 week, and I'm very excited about that. There was 300 pages of reading, which I'm almost done with before the first class, and 2 papers, which I haven't started. The Packers are in the playoffs. Go Pack. My shoulder is doing better. It's actually in more pain because I'm doing more exercises, but that's to be expected. I found a new place to live where I can get a cat or a dog or maybe one of each. And then I just remembered all of you are my joys, from Aaron to Zoe, from A to Z. My sorrow is I'll be leaving you. On December 20th, my mom got a 30-day eviction notice at the place she lives. long story, but basically they wanted us to buy more independent help for her, which we thought was unreasonable. So Thursday, we're moving to Madison, actually Verona. It's a great new place. It's brand new. It's luxury living, and it should be at the rent we are now going to have to pay. It's memory care, which is good. I found an apartment within walking distance, like a mile away, so I'm excited about that. It's all been really fast and very sudden. So I'll be keeping my apartment here in Waukesha until like the end of March and coming and going because I still have PT booked out until the end of February. So I'll kind of be going back and forth. And I get to go back to First Unitarian Society in Madison, if anybody's been there. That's actually where I discovered UU when I was in grad school, so it's bittersweet to go back there. But as I look around, I'm going to miss so much of this place and all of you. And I will be back. I'm hoping to make it back for January 26th service. And you'll forever be in my heart. And who knows, maybe I'll come back and get ordained here. And then we won't have a conflict of interest, right? So I wish you all well, and I'll carry you in my heart. Thank you.
Adele, you are loved and you will always have a home here. Now I'll place one last stone for all those joys and sorrows that have been left unspoken as we sing Walking with You.
Walking with you, walking with you is our prayer.
Story for all ages. I think all the kids are back there. So, all ages. The name of the book is Imogene's Antlers by David Small. On Thursday, when Imogene woke up, she found she had grown antlers. Getting dressed was difficult, and going through a door, now that took some thinking. Imogene started down for breakfast, down the banister, but got hung up. Oh, Imogene's mother fainted away. The doctor poked and prodded and scratched his chin. He could find nothing wrong. The school principal glared at Imogene, but had no advice to offer. Her brother Norman consulted the encyclopedia. Remember those? And then announced that Imogene had turned into a rare form of miniature elk. Imogene's mother fainted again and was carried upstairs to bed. Imogene went into the kitchen. Lucy, the kitchen maid, had her sit by the oven to dry some towels. Lovely antlers, said Lucy. The cook, Mrs. Perkins, gave Imogene a donut, then decked her out with several more, and sent her into the garden to feed the birds. You'll be lots of fun to decorate on Christmas, Mrs. Perkins said. After the birds nibble away at the donuts, later Imogene wandered upstairs. She found the whole family in Mother's bedroom. Donuts, anyone? She asked. Her mother said, Imogene, we have decided there is only one thing to do. We must hide your antlers under a hat. Norman telephoned the milliner. Remember those? At 3 o'clock, the milliner arrived. Rapidly, he sketched a few designs, then set to work. Voila, said the milliner. Bravo, Marie. He did. Bravo. I said it really good in my brain. Thud, Imogene's mother had to be carried away once more. After dinner, Imogene practiced her piano lesson under candlelight. Then, yawning, she folded her music, kissed the family, and went to bed. Imogene sighed, remembering the long, eventful day. On Friday, when Imogene woke up, the antlers had disappeared. When she came down to breakfast, the family was overjoyed to see her back to normal. Until she came into the room. And I'd say we'd sing the kids out, but I think they're all back there already. So for our offertory, let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. The offering will be collected.
You're all my friends, but you look so much more intimidating when I see you from here. The sermon I have today is not the one that was completely written on Friday. That one might show up in my website tomorrow, who knows, depends on how today goes. I had an explication of story, and then Friday night said, you know what people really like, what I really like, are stories. So mostly what we have today is a story by Jesus and a story by me, and that's what we're going to do. Stories are a cohering force in human life. A society is composed of people with different personalities, goals, and agendas. What connects us beyond family ties? Stories. Stories are the center without which the rest cannot hold. Stories supply the symbols that carry us forward. We're going to start this sermon with perhaps my favorite Bible story, the story of the prodigal son. And FYI, just because people have used this story to yell at young people who leave home as if that was the wrong thing to do, the word prodigal was invented in about the 1600s. Before that, the story was the story of the loving father with 2 kids. So this is from Luke 15, 11 to 32. Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, please give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all that he had, set off for a different country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything to eat. Then he came to his senses, and he said, "How many of my father's hired people have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, the father saw him and was filled with compassion and love for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and let's celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is now alive. He was lost and now he is found." Wait for that phrase when we sing Amazing Grace a long time from now. I once was lost and now I'm found. So they all began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called to one of the servants and asked him, "What's going on?" "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has him safe and sound, and we're having a party." The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, and I never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, that's what a brother would say. When he comes, you kill the fatted calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found." So, why do I love this story so much? I'm going to tell you a true story from my life. I first wrote this in 1987 when I was a contributing writer for The Other Side, a magazine for leftist evangelicals. There weren't a lot of us, but we were very interesting. And I have rewritten it and shortened it a lot for this morning. I started my story back then this way. A few weeks ago, while listening to yet another sermon on the prodigal son, I remembered the night my brother came home from Vietnam. It was 1970 and a crummy year all around. 3 years earlier, my father had died of a heart attack. Up until that time, our family had played out a kind of fundamentalist father knows best. We were clean, respectful, and most of our problems were minor. However, we were growing up and that picture-perfect family life was dissolving. My sister Karen was finishing college and had told Mom and Dad she wasn't coming back to our hometown to live. I was 14, moody, and refused to go to our piety-soaked church youth group. My brother, that was a big deal. My brother Paul quit his Christian college and got a factory job in a town about an hour from where we lived. And then one Saturday night, he came home to tell my folks he was enlisting in the Army. The next day, my dad had his heart attack, and 2 days later, he died in the hospital. Father Knows Best was off the air. No one knew what was supposed to come next. Well, Paul didn't enlist in the Army after all. Instead, he stayed home, and at the tender age of 21, started his adult life by becoming partners with our mother in operating the family printing business. He'd been working in the print shop after school and in the summer since he was 12. He knew how to operate the presses and the equipment. Now he was working day and night, and when he wasn't working, he was with his girlfriend Janice. Still in his half-teenage, half-adult way, Paul was my strongest relationship, a link to love in my grieving, weird adolescence. He'd pick me up after school when he had to drive a complicated printing job that he couldn't do to another printer who was 70 miles away. Those rides were our times. We talked and played AM rock and roll super loud. There was a deserted stretch of country road where we played, "Guess How Fast Paul is Driving His Firebird." I developed a sense of the difference between 90 and 120 miles per hour. You have to watch the poles that the wires are on. How fast they go tells you. No one ever said love would be safe, right? 6 months later, Paul got his draft notice. Let's hear it again for old-fashioned small-town American values. The local draft board decided Paul was draftable. Paul, my mother, and a lot of other local people pointed out that without Paul's contribution, our business would likely fail. They reminded the draft board of America's tradition to let widows' only sons stay home to help support the family. The draft board was not moved. And 50 years later, yes, I am still angry about this. Don't tell me about small towns. So Paul went in the army and once in tried to get out. While he and Mom and many of Paul's military superiors filled out early out forms, the army also sent him to boot camp, medic training, and paratrooping school. Finally, they gave him orders for Vietnam. I remember hugging him one November morning as he was going off to war and I was going to school. I shoved my face in the shoulder of his uniform, but a uniform doesn't smell like family. Because of that goodbye, I was late for my first period government class, so my mom wrote me a note. The irony of these things sometimes doesn't hit for years. Mom and I watched the Bob Hope special that January. We still didn't know where Paul was, and he wasn't telling us, which felt pretty ominous. All we knew was that he was a medic in a large camp, and we were sending our letters to the 101st Airborne Division. As we watched that TV show, Mom noticed a hand-scrawled banner some soldiers held up, which read, 101st Airborne, Hue. We looked on a map. Hue was 2 miles from the dividing line between North and South Vietnam. Well, we carried on. Mom carried on in the shop. She hired several printers, all of whom failed. She was audited by the IRS, who wanted to know why the formerly prosperous business was going broke. Mom remortgaged everything that year, the building, our house, equipment, and the land. It was amazing that she kept Danielson Color Print going. Then, that August, the Army finally decided that he should be released from enlistment. After 22 months, 2 months before it would have been done anyway, he was put on a plane back to Chicago. He called my sister, went to her apartment, and collapsed asleep. Karen called my mom. I was doing yard work when I heard a scream from the print shop, which was about the distance of here to the back of the church. I looked up, and it was my staid and pious Aunt Carol, who was working for my mom that year. Carol was screaming as she ran from the shop towards me, and it was the only time in my entire life I would ever see her run. Your mom is on the phone with Karen. Paul is back. She's driving him home tonight. It took about 5 hours for Karen to get Paul from Chicago to home. That's plenty of time to put on the gala of a lifetime if the cause is sufficient, and it certainly was. Mom closed the shop and started phoning people. Folks responded to the wonderful news the way the people did back then and sometimes still do. They baked. In the evening, those people and their endless dozens of baked things came to our house. Rogue men, those would be my brother's friends, appeared at our back door to sneak beer under the ping pong table. That evening, my fundamentalist mom didn't care. The image that is mostly still in my mind, though, is the lights of that night. As August dust thickened into night, we turned on the lights in the house. At first, it was just the living room lamps and the candles stuck among the baked goods on the dining room table. Then the long hall skylight that could be seen from the highway a half mile away. The back bedroom lights, even the Christmas star on the TV antenna. As the house blazed, someone went out to the print shop to turn on those lights too, causing the printing presses to look like dragons hunkered down, waiting for their boy. Finally, those of us waiting outside heard Kieran's VW Beetle turn off the highway to rattle down our gravel road. We yelled to those inside, and they were still spilling out as Kieran turned into our driveway, veered straight across the lawn to pull up to a slam-bang stop at our feet. Paul jumped out. People cheered and hugged and clapped. Janice fell into his first embrace. I hugged him from behind. My mom hugged his shoulders, were weeping so hard it made us laugh. Even our dog Sheba was barking and barking and barking. Paul kept saying, "But I was going to surprise you." The party went on a long time. The rogues drank the beer while the rest of us got punch drunk and pastry plastered. We ate to accompany the feasting of our eyes, watching Paul amble around among us. My mother did nothing but refill cookie platters while mumbling, "Thank you, thank you." Everything else was knocked out of us that night. That night, our story was thank you. Sue Monk Kidd writes this quote, "Stories have to be told or they die, and when they die, we can't remember who we are or why we're here." Joan Didion wrote, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." What is a good story? I started with Jesus' prodigal son because it's a story that feels so true. I told you my story of my brother because I think concepts teach our minds, but stories teach our hearts. Here are some of the characteristics of stories I look for, stories that I think build our hearts and teach our spirits. First, a good story is not just one person and how he or she becomes the winner of everything. A good story has a variety of characters, and one of those characters might pull you in. Stories that ask us to rethink our place in the world are stories populated by more than one attractive person who wants to win something or get a boyfriend. In The Prodigal Son, we might be the imprudent kid who wants to leave home and see the world. We might be the reliable son who stays home to run the farm, but who can get jealous and snide. We might be the parent loving the child who is here, longing for the one who isn't. In my story, the dazzling realization, and this was big for me, was realizing I was not omitted from that story because I was just a lackluster younger sister. I was there. I cared. I was one of the characters in this story. I don't trust a story that's only about winners. Good stories invite all of us to the party. Number 2, money matters. How often do you watch a TV show and wonder where that sales clerk got her 2-bedroom apartment and her leather boots and that little electric car? A story that lies about how hard it is for modern adults to create economic stability is a story that might lie about other things. A story doesn't need to have the character's budget breakdown, but a story should make some economic sense. In The Prodigal Son, it is the money taken, spent, and missing that drives the prodigal's wake-up call. In my story, it makes a difference that my brother was drafted. When he was drafted, my mother's life became so much more stressful and difficult. We missed the young man that my brother was. We also missed his contribution to our finances. If he had been gone much longer, the family business would have failed. It feels real to understand that. And 3, is there magic in this story? Too many religious magical stories are about how hard something was, and then God did a miracle and everything became easy. people learn to consider religion as a Pez dispenser of grace. I like that too. The prodigal's life doesn't get better because money magically appears. His life becomes richer because his father still loves him and he has become more realistic. Whether it's called grace or magic, a valuable story is about people addressing complicated situations on their own and with others. Magic can give them, and grace can give them courage, but then they solve their own problems. Good stories are, and this is our last point, the good stories are about love. Some stories have romance in them, and that's fun. But love is not the same as romance. When a dozen church people showed up to our house with cookies and brownies, we felt the love that sometimes happens in communities. When in this congregation, we listen to and empower each other, that's love. Stories show us the paths people have walked to find a true and loving place to live their lives. As we walk into this month and this year where we will think about and tell stories, I hope we can consider where to find stories that will give us courage and hope that we are going to need going forward this year.
The world lost an amazing, caring humanitarian, in our country, a past president. Jimmy Carter's favorite hymn was Amazing Grace. May we now rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 205, Amazing Grace, in his honor and memory.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come.
Please remember there's coffee and conversation downstairs following Alex's postlude. And now we extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
This quote, this reading is from Woody Guthrie, and it was in the very first sermon I brought to you, and it's one of my favorite very tiny stories. This is from Woody Guthrie. I am out to sing songs or tell stories that will prove to you that this is your world, and that if it has hit you pretty hard and knocked you for a dozen loops, no matter what color, what size you are, how you were built, I am out to sing the songs and tell the stories that make you take pride in yourself and in your work. And the songs that I sing and the stories I tell are made up for the most part by all sorts of folks just about like you.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us and he began to speak. He said, son, I made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what their cards were by the way they held their eyes. And if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces, but for a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Well, every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away and knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser. Best you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he'd finished speaking, he turned back towards the window and crushed out his cigarette and faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. In his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Thank you.